Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Kimberly Funderburk, President of Government and Education at Cigna Healthcare, and I'm delighted to be here with you for today's discussion, Successful Mentorship in Local Government. Thank you to all of our speakers and to all of you for joining us from communities across the country. I see you signing in the chat. Local government leaders play a vital role in building strong, thriving communities. One of the most important investments any organization can make is developing the next generation of leaders. At Cigna Healthcare, we believe strong leadership begins with strong relationships built on trust, guidance, learning, and shared experiences. That's why today's conversation is so important. As an organization, we're guided by the Cigna Group's Lead to One strategy, which focuses on leading with the needs of those we serve and delivering more personalized and meaningful experiences. There are three principles that anchor that strategy: each and every one, which means recognizing that every individual has unique needs, strengths, and potential; one team, achieving better outcomes when we collaborate, support one another, and share our knowledge; and one of one, which means embracing innovation and finding new and distinctive ways to lead. Successful mentorship reflects all three of these principles. Great mentors take the time to understand individuals, help build stronger teams, and inspire future leaders to grow in ways that reflect their own unique talents and aspirations. Today's discussion will explore how mentoring relationships begin, how they evolve throughout a career, and the impact they have on individuals, organizations, and the communities they serve. So we are so very fortunate to be joined by two mentor pairs today. Our first pair is Paulette Hartman, City Manager for North Richland Hills, Texas, and Caitlin Biggs, Assistant Town Manager for Little Elm, Texas. Paulette and Caitlin, please introduce yourselves and tell us how the two of you first met.
Hi, thank you, Kimberly. I'm Paulette Hartman, as you said, a City Manager here in North Richland Hills, Texas. And I've been the city manager here for just over 2 years. But yesterday I celebrated my 12-year anniversary here in North Richland Hills, which brought my total time with this organization to 19 years, as I worked here for about 5 years early in my career. But I met Caitlin when I was a city manager in Joshua. And so I was a city manager in Joshua, Texas from 2007 to 2014. And at that time, Caitlin first was a member of the Youth Advisory Committee, or Mayor's Youth Council, I think is what they called it, at the city of Burleson, which was right next door to Joshua. And then she became an intern with them. And that's how I met her, was through another person who was with the city of Burleson at that time as assistant to the city manager, I believe, Kelly Cunningham Mazzoli now. But anyway, that's how we met, and we've just maintained a mentoring relationship since that time. We've never worked in the same organization. We've just maintained that relationship over, I can't think of how many years it's even been. It's been a long time though. So yeah.
I'm Caitlin Biggs, Assistant Town Manager, Town of Little Elm. I've been in the organization almost 8 years, and my current role, oh goodness, we're coming up on almost a year, which is crazy fast. As Paulette mentioned, we met at the early of my tenure. Hey, Kelly, I saw you in the chat. So Kelly is responsible for me and Paulette connecting, and so Paulette has gotten to see me through all the iterations of growing up, from high school kid to intern to college kid to first-time professional adult to mom. So she's gotten to see all of these fun phases that I've been through, and she has been really integral to my success and to all of that. And I know we'll get a little bit more into that through the questions, but just really grateful for you guys to have us today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you both. Our second pair is Jeanette Green, Human Resources Director for the City of Thousand Oaks, California, and Tim Hemstreet, County Administrator for Loudoun County, Virginia. Jeanette and Tim, may we hear from you on that same question?
Sure. Tim, you want to kick us off? Yeah, I can do that. You were introduced first, so I was going to defer to you, Jeanette. But this is okay too. So I'm Tim Hemstreet. I'm the county administrator in Loudoun County, Virginia, which is just outside of Washington, D.C., for those of you not familiar with the area. I've been here a little bit of time. The entire time I've been here, I've been the county administrator. I first was introduced to Jeanette when she came to work here a little bit of time ago too, and then uh, for most of that period, I was also Jeanette was a direct report to me, so we worked together quite a bit on any number of things that I would argue were transformative to this organization. During that time period, I would say that the overall population of Loudoun County probably doubled, uh, going from, well, not double, probably increased by about 50%. So going from, say, 300,000 population to 400,000 population, so 450,000. So that's about a 50% increase. But uh, during that period, also, the employee organization grew at the same kind of pace as uh, the outside community. So, and then we went through COVID, which nobody wants to talk about because that was a very difficult time. But we all kind of got through it. So over that time period, we had a lot of conversations about, hey, what do you want to do with your career? And I think, you've got a lot of potential and you've got so much more to offer the organization. And I think, as Jeanette would say, I kind of pushed her a little bit, but I think I got as much out of the relationship as well, in the sense that Jeanette would push me equally as much. And so I think it was good for the organization, and I think it was good for both of us professionally here. So
Yeah,
I'll start
love that. Yeah, Jeanette, push pull.
That's a good way to describe our relationship. Thank you for that, Tim. And hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I'm Jeanette Green. I am the Human Resources Director for the City of Thousand Oaks. If you're familiar with Southern California, we're just about maybe 45 minutes outside of LA, assuming that there is no traffic. I met Tim when I started in his organization in 2012, and I'm sure he remembers this. When I first started there, I was not a direct report. I had a dotted line to him, and I actually reported in to the chief financial officer. It was, I think, at that time that we developed a mentoring relationship when I was sort of an indirect reporting employee to him, where I kind of got a lot of advice and a lot of guidance. And it was in those earlier years of my career, as he just said, that there were lots of questions about what I wanted to do next, which was often frustrating to me because I was an assistant director and I was very happy being the number two. And not being into operations and having to feel like I was an expert in all things. And he's the person that really pushed me, I think, in my career. And while I was there in Loudoun, I made two jumps, one from an assistant director to a department head, and then from a department head to an ACA level chief human resources officer. And I credit his advice and guidance with a lot of those career jumps.
Oh, that's fantastic. Fantastic. So we're in for a great discussion, it sounds like. I love hearing the background. But again, thank you all for that. And certainly looking forward to learning more from your experiences, I'll say. So we'll begin our conversation. And Paulette and Caitlin, I'm going to take it back to you. What have been some of the benefits of having mentors who brought different perspectives and experiences than your own? Where shall I start? Paulette?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. So for me, it's just what the question kind of says, bringing the different perspectives to help you gain perspective on your career, challenges you might be facing, career moves, and all those kinds of things. Caitlin has influenced me just as much as, or maybe more so than maybe I've influenced her, in that that different perspectives category is that it helps me understand and remember what's important to those who are coming up in this profession. And it's helped me with understanding that from the perspective of recruiting and retaining folks that are going to come behind me. So I think that's important. I think also just their experiences, perspectives when I'm facing challenges, and I talk to my own mentors about that. They really help me get out of my own head and understand it from a different point of view, which is always helpful. So I would say that those are the benefits that first come to mind when I think about the perspectives and experience of others and the benefit of mentoring and just frankly networking.
Yeah, absolutely. Caitlin, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think for me, it is, I have found a mentor in kind of the different, not only seasons of life, but maybe the challenge that I'm up against. And so, Kelly, who we mentioned earlier, she was the one who saw me as a teenager that was like, "You're going to be in public service." And I was like, "No, I'm going to be an educator so I can have my summers off." And she's like, "I'll see you in a few years." And she was right. So she saw that in me before I could see it. So she kind of reminds me of my why every time I wonder, like if I'm really kind of having a bad day, she just kind of reminds me why I got into this. And then I have a mentor that is kind of in the financial, the operations, the how do you ask good questions. And then I have a mentor who kind of teaches me how to be over a lot of functions that maybe I'm not technically skilled in. And then with Paulette, she was helping me to see how could I be a mom and an executive and what moves should I make in my career that were strategic to help me to get to where I want to go. And then my current mentor, or I guess my daily mentor, my boss, Matt, he's the one who's really mentoring me into being a city manager of my own one day. So I think with having those different perspectives, it also kind of helps me in a hiring lens because I know how important and how helpful it is for me to have those different perspectives speak into whatever I'm working on at the time. So I want to build teams that are differing than me. So it's just a reminder that the differing perspectives really kind of create this cohesive team at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that. Just thinking through what you both said there, you've really highlighted the value, right, of having mentors who see beyond our own experiences. So, I think, Paulette, you touched on how you were challenged then to consider folks coming behind you, not just what's happening in your seat today or from your own view or your own perspective, but forcing you to think about others. So I loved that. And then, Caitlin, what I heard from you was, so people pushed me and they saw things that I didn't see in myself. So there's certainly value to having others who have different perspectives and different experiences, because yes, you can gain from that, but you might also find things in yourself that you weren't aware of and take you down a whole nother path. So love that. But I have a follow-up to that, and I'm going to start with you, Caitlin. Was there a lesson or insight that challenged your thinking or changed how you approached your leadership?
Oh, goodness. Yes. Um, the very first advice that I ever got from a mentor was know your audience. Because I very much like the young, 20 naive Caitlin was just like, I am who I am, and people will kind of like adapt to me, right? False. That's not how that works. And so my mentor at the town of Addison, Eric Cannon, the CFO at the time, he said, know your audience. You can still be you, but you kind of have to change your approach depending on who you're talking with. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to communicate with somebody and you can be you, but you can also be kind of this version of you that knows how to communicate with them. And so that really started to shift my perspective that leadership is not one size fits all, as we're kind of talking about the different perspectives. Just as much as I go to different people when I'm going through different challenges, I need to approach people in a different way in order to kind of get them to whatever success is for what we're working on.
Great. Okay, Paulette, anything to add there?
Yes, sorry, I had trouble unmuting myself. So it's similar, I guess, in a way to what Caitlin said. What came to mind is, so Julie Johnston Robinson, she gave me some advice when I took my first town administrator job in this little teeny tiny town here in Texas called Copper Canyon. And it was similar to what Caitlin said, because I tend to operate a little bit as I am who I am. And I don't want to necessarily have to change that for the organization. But what I had to realize is that, yes, I'm who I am, but at that point I was coming in as the boss. And it was the first time I'd, been the boss, and it was a very small staff there. But at the same time, I had to be reminded that the words that I say and how I say them are going to be overthought and overanalyzed because I am the boss. And so it is important to don't just act like everyone is your best friend, like you've known them forever. You need to remember that they're taking your words differently now. And so that is something, honestly, I've taken with every position that I've had as a reminder that, although I tend to form close relationships with people that I work with, I have to remember that their perspective with me is different than a friend. I'm their boss first. And so what I say matters in a different way than if we were just friends. So.
Yeah. Got it. And the both of you really touched on that, it's an important dimension of mentorship. So the most effective mentors do more than affirm us, right? So you want for them to push you. They broaden our perspective, they challenge our assumptions, and they help shape how we lead, I will say. And I heard that from both of you. So thank you. Jeanette and Tim, I'm going to turn to you now. And Jeanette, I will start with you. As you've progressed throughout your career, how has your understanding of mentorship evolved?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say that early on in my career, and I've been in local government for almost 20 years, about 20 years now. So back when I started, the prevailing wisdom that I heard over and over again was that I needed to have a mentor who was demographically similar to me. So look for an African American female who was in my field. So in that case, it was HR, and I also had a legal background, so someone who was in the law. They should be older because that way they'd be more seasoned and be able to sort of show me the ropes. And they shouldn't be a supervisor. I was told that a supervisor's best interest is always going to be the best interest of the organization, not necessarily my best interest, which is kind of what you need from a mentor. And, I will say that that advice did lead me to some great mentors in the beginning part of my career. There are a couple of people that I can think of who were exactly that, very demographically similar to me, similar lived experiences and similar professional experiences that helped me to navigate what I would call the sink or swim years when you first come into local government and you're trying to figure it out. They were the people that helped me to avoid making mistakes and to clean up the mistakes that I did make. And so I was always very appreciative for that. But I can honestly say 20 years in, Tim was my most impactful mentor, and he didn't check any of those boxes. We are demographically very similar. He's obviously male, different ethnic backgrounds. He did not come up through HR. He will tell you that he would never want to work in HR. He didn't have that legal background. But I still credit him with being the most impactful mentor, in part because of those differences that we were just discussing. He had that ability to be able to stand in my blind spot and offer me a different perspective to get me to see things that I might not have seen if I had just stayed in my, my lens. And so I think how my understanding of mentorship has evolved, and the advice that I would give anyone is focus on having not just one mentor. You need to have a mentorship bench. And there needs to be diversity in that bench. There need to be people who share your lived experiences and your professional experiences, but then there also need to be people who are different, who can stand in those blind spots for you.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Tim, anything to add here?
Not really. I think Jeanette nailed it or covered it really well. I think I agree. Early in professional career, it is very helpful to have a mentor who is similar to you and can help you navigate kind of your early career, understand the differences between formal authority and informal authority, or the informal organization versus the formal organization, because those are very critical things to understand, particularly if you want to get something done. I think Caitlin did a great job of walking through that in one of her responses of, about your audience. That's a very, very powerful piece of advice that is very pertinent earlier in your career. I think, though, as you progress through into leadership ranks, I agree completely with Jeanette, because the world is a dynamic place, and organizations and the places, the communities we work in are made up of all kinds of different individuals, and many of whom you're just not like. And
Yeah.
you need to have other mentors, and Jeanette said it, so I'm just repeating now, but uh, who can help you understand the world as it is, and not necessarily the way that you perceive it, because the way you perceive it, you absolutely have blind spots that you need someone you trust to kind of help you understand and see those things, and in a way navigate through them.
Yeah. I really appreciate both of those perspectives, because what you've done is reinforce membership isn't a single experience, it's not a single profile. I love what you said, Jeanette. You need a mentorship bench. I'm gonna use that. So thank you for that. So it is something that can absolutely take on a different meaning at each stage of your career. And then Tim, you were broaching the subject. You both covered it a little bit, but just wondering if you could throw out two or three good points on, as you in your seat today as leaders, as you look for a mentor yourself, or what you can offer as a mentor. um, Tell me about the difference from before leadership and now in a leadership position. You've broached the subject a bit, but if you'll throw out two or three key points there, Tim.
Yeah. So early in my career, I was looking for mentors who could help me get to my next position. What did I need to do in terms of training? Who did I need to go talk to? What kind of assignments did I need to seek out? Hey, I was meeting with this department and this conversation didn't go so well, and I got myself in a lot of trouble. And how could I have handled that differently? And so the advice, in a lot of ways, was very, I would say, tactical oriented and more immediate in terms of what do I need to be doing now to help me succeed today, tomorrow, and then maybe get my next job in 2 or 3 or 4 years. I would say today, the relationships that I seek in terms of mentoring discussions and focuses are more about leadership and dealing with the pressures of being the CAO. I think Paulette alluded to this as well, which is sometimes it can be pretty lonely in terms of
Only
what,
at the top, Tim. It's lonely.
well, yeah, because there are absolutely things that you can't share with your employees and with your staff, but there are things that you're struggling with, or things that you're trying to work through, and you have to have other people to talk to about it. And you definitely, some of these things, you're not, if you value your home life, you're not bringing them home, because that's not healthy either. So you need a place, and you need people around you. Jeanette's right. You need a bench of people that are there, that care about you, that trust you, and you trust them, that are going to, help you work through some of these more complicated challenges that we face in local government, whether it's stability or the lack of stability, or dealing with your governing body, or dealing with, particularly challenging issues within the community. Those are all things that today I am looking for in terms of the mentors that I have.
That's great. Jeanette.
I think I really covered it in the first, part of my answer. It's really looking for, at this point in my career, the folks that can offer me those differing perspectives. I also think at this point in my career, I recognize that mentorship relationships are not always going to be this sort of long, extended formal kind of thing. I've really come to embrace what I call mentoring moments. You go to an ICMA conference, you happen to sit down in the hotel, you see somebody else that has the badge on, you strike up a conversation, and out of that curiosity and that connection, you can learn so much about a person and so much about how they made that jump in their career to where they are at that point. In their career, you can also share challenges, and just within those very short interactions and those brief discussions, there's a lot of wisdom that can be exchanged. And so I think at this point, I focus on, especially because I'm an introvert by nature, on staying open, staying curious about other people, talking to other people, and allowing room for that connection, because a lot of times it's striking up those connections with people that you respect and admire, and people that have done things that you haven't done, that will allow those that mentoring to occur.
Yeah, and that's important, staying open, because both of you kind of talked about blind spots. So if they're blind to us, that means we can't see them. And if you're not open and allowing others in to expose those blind spots, then you'll never really effectively know what they are. But thank you for that. I think the message here is just, as we evolve, as does our the type of mentoring that we need. And another important point was, when you first start out, it's like, oh, I got to get, I got to get a mentor. I got to get on the calendar every month or whatever. But I love that mentoring, it can be just in a moment. So think of mentorship as quick tidbits of information and insights, or it could be extended relationships, or, it could be a couple of months and you're on to someone else. So it isn't just one experience is the point. All right. So Paulette and Caitlin, both of you have incredibly demanding leadership roles. So how do you approach mentoring others while balancing the responsibilities of your own positions? So Paulette, I'll start with you.
Well, I think what was said before is a good segue into this. So I've not ever had like a formal mentoring relationship where you put it on the calendar once a month and you've got these scheduled meetings, mainly because I don't really operate real well in that format. So it's always been an informal thing, which helps me to get it to mentor folks along the way. So, from even in my own organization and mentoring folks, I take those mentoring moments, as Jeanette mentioned. So if we're in a meeting, or I can think of a budget meeting just day before yesterday with the budget director, where mentoring on understanding of political nuance, how something that I wanted to make sure we're including in our budget packet, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to him. Why would I want to include that? But in talking through it, and you got to understand the political nuances here and some things going on in the background that make it make sense. And that's a mentoring moment. So I tend to use those more often. With Caitlin, for example, she'll reach out to me when she needs some career advice, or like she was saying, balancing this whole mom and manager thing can get challenging. Those types of things. My mentors tend to do the same thing. They reach out when they read in the paper, whatever it is. The paper that shows my age. That something is happening in the community that's probably causing me a lot of stress. And so they'll tend to reach out to me to talk through those things. And so I think it just goes along with having that bench of mentors is at least for me, has been more effective in making sure that I'm doing both. I'm mentoring others that are coming behind me, but I'm also seeking out my mentors, or they're seeking me out when there's challenges that I need to talk through.
Very good. Thank you. Caitlin?
Yeah, the only thing that I would add to that is that I've noticed that mentorship for me, at least now I'm on the side of being a mentor, it's not only advice, it's just talking about those opportunities. So inviting somebody into a meeting just to sit in there and to listen to the conversation, because I know I've picked up on so many things just by listening to the room. And then if council makes a decision or a meeting goes a certain way, we have a new assistant to the city manager who started with us almost a year ago. So after we kind of have conversations and you can kind of just see the like, I don't really what just happened there. It's just pulling them aside and kind of explaining some context behind, well, this is why that what was said. This is, kind of some consequences or, benefits of that. So it's really kind of explaining the why behind things. I got that in my career early on in my career a little bit, but I have learned that if I understand the why and kind of where we're trying to go, then the things that happen in the moment make a little bit more sense. And it also kind of develops that critical thinking side of what we have to do in our jobs, because you don't just wake up one day and learn how to solve problems, right? It all is based off of our experience. So, yes, I think mentorship's not only in the advice that we can give each other, but also through the opportunities that we provide for others.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And you've also touched on a point, some individuals who sit in leadership roles are like, my job is so demanding, I just don't have enough time to mentor. But what I've heard from you is, take those membership moments. It's not always about a formal program, if you will, or a significant block of time. It could also just be about exposure. So, right, that invitation to a meeting or just giving somebody thoughtful feedback when the opportunity presents itself. So I see those as you've already kind of laid some of those things out, but are there any other tidbits, anything I'm not thinking of or catching if there's a leader out there?
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about, people hesitate with mentorship just due to time. And
Mhm.
really, I don't know if it's really added any time because I'll call
Mhm.
Paulette on my drive to get my kids. Or
Mhm.
if I really need my boss's attention, I know he's driving to another meeting. I was like, great, I'm going to hop in the car and we're going to talk about this. So I think like we can find moments where we just kind of weave mentorship into it to
Yeah.
where it just kind of becomes a habit and second nature. It's not something maybe we're intentionally setting time for. It's just during things where we're like, oh, like this emerging professional should be in this meeting because they could really learn something, or the budget manager should really be in the debt conversations because that does play a critical role in some things. So I think mentorship for me on the mentor side is being able to take a step out of it and realizing who's missing in this room, who could benefit from
Mhm.
the conversations that we're having. Because here at Little Elm, we operate under like bring as many people in, like unless there's some personnel matter that's going on, we want to bring everyone to the table to either learn something or provide an opinion. So yeah, so I think it's just trying to get away from this just notion that mentorship has to be this formal block of time. It can just be, I love that Jeanette said moments, just everyday
Mhm.
moments you can mentor somebody or and they can mentor you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that. So again, if there are leaders out there, you're a little bit hesitant, take the advice here. Everyone could benefit from mentorship, and I'm sure that they will appreciate it. So Tim and Jeanette, so for She Leads Gov, these are women leading government. And what I heard you say, Jeanette, is you need a mentorship bench, not always the same demographic profile as yourself, diversity of thought. So Tim, from your lens as a mentor, what advice would you give to other men who want to be effective mentors and sponsors for women specifically in local government?
So well, I'll start with some of the best mentors I've had have been women and female leaders, right? So I think part of it is recognizing that as a leader, that is part of your role. You're there just like people who I reported to or worked for or worked with, who were women. I didn't, they felt that their obligation or knew I don't know what's going on with my camera, but who knew their obligation was to help develop me, were willing to reach out and say, hey, you have potential, you need to work on these things about yourself that I can see you're having difficulty with. And so to an extent, I think we as leaders have that same responsibility to people that we work with, whether they're inside or outside our organization. Now, having said that, the mentor-mentee relationship is one of trust. So, it's just like any other professional relationship you're going to have in the organization, which is it's a relationship that is based on trust. And so you need to make sure that, if you're going to mentor somebody, that they want you to mentor them. And so with everybody that I work with, there are times where I will broach a topic of, hey, what are you trying to do with your career? What's next for you? They're either interested in talking about that or they're not. And if they're not, that's fine. And you just move on. There are other moments where somebody has not handled something the way that they probably should have handled it. And it's something that you see. And to some extent, you have an obligation, or I feel I have an obligation to at least broach the topic of, hey, did that last interaction go the way you wanted it to go? Now, if it went perfectly, then it's like, okay, I'll move on. If it's not, or if they're more open to say, hey, what did you see? Then you can have that conversation. And so I think for me, it's just part of the obligation of sitting where you sit. And for me, it's being willing to give back what was given to me and given to me freely as I was coming up through my career from a lot of different people.
Got it. And so, Jeanette, being on the other end of that and now in the seat that you sit, is there advice that you would give to men specifically who are looking to be mentors and sponsors for women in local government?
I think the best advice that I can give is absolutely do it. I think that if you are a male leader and you are only open to mentoring other men in the organization, that's going to be problematic for you, because there are ways that those can then translate into discrimination and things that end up on my desk as the HR director.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side of that is that as a female, particularly a newer professional woman coming into local government, if you do have a male leader who is, further up the ranks and is willing to mentor you, it's really critical that you keep that relationship very focused on the professional and on the mentoring aspect of that relationship. 99.999% of male leaders can have a wonderful, male-female mentoring relationship with you, and it won't get anyone into any trouble. But there is a small percentage of people out there who might misread that cue, who might misread why you want to spend time with them, what you're really there for, what you're showing up for, or who will see your interest in them or your admiration for them as a door that they can open into something else. When Tim and I were preparing for this meeting, we talked a lot about how keeping conversations very focused with a mentor on their career journey, their leadership, and some of those other things, particularly between male and female mentor-mentee, is incredibly important, because when you start to meander into the personal, it creates, either misperception about what that relationship is about. It also can create a level of familiarity that, unfortunately, even if there isn't anything inappropriate going on, when other people see that level of familiarity between you, they can make assumptions about what's going on there as well. So I think keeping it professional and really focusing on the leadership journey and the career goals and objectives is an important part of that male-female mentoring dynamic. Sorry, HR auntie for you.
No, thank you for that, because that definitely is a legitimate concern. I was just taking some notes there, because it certainly can sometimes be misinterpreted or viewed as personal, like you say. But Tim, you hit the nail on the head. Like, effective mentors, you're just you're you address that by establishing those clear boundaries. You really just want to focus like any other mentor relationship, right? By maintaining your transparency and creating like a respectful and safe, professional kind of environment for that that you would offer to any other emerging leader. So, I mean, Tim, you're a prime example, you and Jeanette. If you have male friends who are hesitant, then tell them how you've made it so, be so successful. And as in Jeanette's words, for her, the most impactful mentor that she has had thus far. So thank you all for that. Let's see here. We talked about mentorship a bit, but there's a distinction between mentorship and sponsorship, and they certainly both matter. But Tim, I'll turn it back to you. Why do they both matter? And distinguish between the two for the audience, if you will.
Yeah, so I think if we are serious about insisting that we are hiring, promoting, supporting the best person for the job, whatever that job may be, then you have to, from time to time, sponsor is a good word. I sometimes use the word kind of push somebody into a place where they're not comfortable or outside their comfort zone. What I have been told over and over and over again by female employees and leaders and others is that there's a tendency to want to be almost overqualified for a position, or want to make sure that a female may check every single box before they apply, or they want to do something, and men don't necessarily react that way or feel the same way. And so in some cases, it is critical that as a leader, you're taking your best leaders, many of whom are going to be women, and saying, hey, I need you to be out there, or I need you to understand that you can do this job, whatever it is, and that you need to focus on the fact that you are, in this case, the best person for that position. And so I think that is very different from necessarily being a mentor, which is, I think, more focused on helping somebody work through where they are and what they're doing, or helping them to find a path, versus sponsorship, which I think is more, hey, I am supporting you here, and you can do this, and you need to go do this, which I think is very different. Now, sometimes in Jeanette's case, they're going to say, no, I'm not interested in that. But I do think that's part of the role.
Yeah. And that distinction is critical. So mentors, we talked about it, offering guidance, that perspective, encouragement, challenging us, while sponsors, to your point, are using their voice and influence, if you will, to advocate for someone or impress upon your mentee, if you will, to go seek out those opportunities. But both really are essential in developing and advancing strong leaders. I wholeheartedly believe that. So Paulette and Caitlin, coming back to you, you've talked a little bit about it, but help us with an example of how mentorship helped open a specific door or create a specific opportunity that might not have happened otherwise. I know, Caitlin, you talked about the fact that, I'm going to be an educator, but someone's like, no, you're going to be a public servant. So I don't know if you have an example of that.
Yeah, so I already mentioned that had Kelly not, opened that door, then I wouldn't have been connected to Paulette, and had Paulette not opened this door of you can be an executive and you can be a mom and you can do all of these things, then I wouldn't have, probably gone to the level that I'm at right now and then aspire to be a city manager one day. Also, had I not had Paulette, I wouldn't have taken a lateral move because in Caitlin's logical head, that doesn't make sense to just like go from one organization to another at the same level. But I also wouldn't be in this seat right now talking to you guys had I not done that. So I think by having these mentors in my life at the time that I needed them, they opened these doors to, I guess, options that I didn't even see that were there. So I think for me, that's just been invaluable. And I mean, it all kind of stems back to Kelly and opening that door of like, you don't see this yet, but give yourself a few years and you will. You'll get there. So I really wouldn't be where I'm at today without the influence of all of them at different portions of my life.
Yeah. Paulette, same for you.
So, yeah, I mean, really my first city manager opportunity in that teeny tiny town that I was in wouldn't have been possible without the encouragement of one of my mentors, but who's actually a colleague. So again, back to the mentoring bench, he's been a friend of mine. He's the city manager of Plano now, Mark Israelson. But there was an opening in a small town really next door to that first, and he called and encouraged me to apply. And I was that person that Tim was mentioning that was, but I don't hit all these boxes. What are you talking about? Like, I'm not ready. And he actually encouraged me and then introduced me to the recruiter for that job. I didn't get that job, but that opened the door for the town next door that was hiring their first town administrator. So that's one example. But I think, it really just goes back to the networking. I mean, almost every opportunity I've had has been a result of networking, knowing someone, mentoring, having that somebody that can encourage you to apply for it, whether you check every single box or not, and then can talk you through those interview questions that are going to be challenging. That box you don't have. How can I address that when that question comes up? It's been key in my career. I mean, even the position I'm in now, coming back here to North Richland Hills, that was entirely based on what my experience had been here before and my work ethic when I was here before. And then knowing the people that were still here and them having followed my career, I was recruited to come back as an assistant city manager with the idea that when the city manager at that time, who was Mark Hyndman, when he retired, maybe I could fulfill that role. So all of that, everything has been a result of those doors open because of mentoring and networking.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I appreciate those examples because they demonstrate that mentors can really expand what we believe is possible. And in both of your situations, really connect us to opportunities that we may not have encountered on our own. And then as you think about, Caitlin, in your example, how there was recognition in you that you didn't see in yourself at that moment. Those things are pivotal as we see in your whole experience, because like a mentor can recognize our readiness or potential before we see it in ourselves, and that encouragement can give us the confidence to take an important next step or that lateral move that you mentioned that got you to where you are today. So I appreciate that. And Jeanette and Tim, I'm going to come back to you. So I'm going to build upon that theme. How has mentorship created opportunities in your own careers, and how are you now paying that forward for future leaders? And Jeanette, I'll start with you.
Again, like many of the other panelists on the call, I was that female leader who would look at the job description and see if I didn't not only meet, but exceed all of the qualifications. Like, no, I can't do that. I gave Tim a lot of pushback when I was in his organization about going up and some of the taking on more responsibility. That was always a struggle, I think, in our mentorship conversations. I think part of that too was also kind of the influence of my lived experience as an African American woman, where it is drilled into our heads at a very young age that you have to be twice as good in order to get half as far. So unless I could feel that I could walk into an opportunity and rock it from day one, I was very reticent to try to do anything else. If I hadn't gotten out of that mindset, I never would have become a department head at Loudoun County, and I never would have been the chief human resources officer. That CHRO position had HR, it had equity, it had the internal operations committee, which, I was influencing and facilitating with a group of peers that did not report directly into me. So it was a totally different skill set that I was using. And I did not know that I would be able to do it and to be well at it. But I think that encouragement that I got from Tim, that you're ready for this, you understand this, you have the leadership capabilities, you know how to do this, as well as drilling into me that I did not have to be a technical and subject matter expert in everything that I had oversight over. That really what was the most important thing was my ability to be able to lead people and systems. That was really what was very helpful. And in terms of paying that forward, I actually have a mentee of mine that is on the call right now, and I've used a lot of the same techniques that Tim has used with me to try to get her to expand her lens of what's possible for her. And in the time that she was there at Loudoun County, she went from being a risk manager to a labor relations manager, which was a totally different job for her in her mind. And it's like, I don't know if I can do this, but she had the skill set, she had the leadership ability. It just was a matter of exposure and knowing that I would be there to help, coach her through that, and even when I left, that I was still available to her. And I think one of the quick things that I will say about making time for mentorship is that if I'm taking on someone as a mentee, they are on my callback within at least 24 hours list. So if I see a text or a phone call from her, I know that I'm going to prioritize at some point in my day of getting back to her, which is why I limit, how many of those folks that I can make that commitment to. But as a mentor, I always try to be there for her as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, that's great. And Jeanette, you've really captured the full cycle of mentorship. So benefiting from the guidance and advocacy of others, and then using your own experience, your access, and your influence to help future leaders. So hi out there to Jeanette's mentee. You have a wonderful mentor. But I'm going to try to see if I could get in just a question or two. But before we wrap up, I'd love for each of you to leave our audience with one piece of advice. So for someone looking for a mentor or considering becoming one, what's the most important thing that they should remember? And I feel like we talked about it throughout our discussion today, but just one salient point from each of you. So Jeanette, I'll start with you.
I think whether you are looking for a mentor or you want to be a mentor, the best piece of advice I can give you is just stay open to meeting people, to connecting with other people, staying curious, as well as sharing your experiences and allowing there to be some vulnerability that's there, as well as a person that people can be vulnerable with. I think those are all foundational principles for a good, effective mentoring relationship.
Thank you. Tim?
I think I would just say don't hesitate. It's to go ahead and, look for those opportunities to hear from others who can give you a bit of advice or point you in the right direction when you need it, but then also in a very respectful, polite way, also don't hesitate to be willing to provide your observations at an appropriate time and manner when you see the opportunity.
Very good. Paulette?
Yeah, so my biggest piece of advice is don't make it so formal in your mind that it becomes a block. Take advantage of those mentoring opportunities, but also mentees take advantage of the opportunities to network and ask questions of folks that you respect, admire, follow their career, you liked something that they presented in a session or whatever the case may be. I think most of us more seasoned professionals are more open than you think and want the opportunity to continue to mentor folks. But the biggest piece of advice, again, is I think just in general, we tend to make things so formal or think they have to be so formalized that it kind of sometimes creates a barrier to our own mentoring experience. So I would say don't do that to yourself. Doesn't have to be extra. It's just a relationship. It's just a conversation. So
Very good. Caitlin?
Yeah, just to tie into what Paulette said is if you're looking for a mentor, ask. It's not, most of us don't show up to networking events looking to mentor to somebody, but we are very open when people ask us for mentorship or advice or guidance. So don't be like, you have to go where people are and then just ask questions. And then when you find somebody who you know, very much admire, the way they carry themselves, the way that they lead is just, you know, ask them if they have a few times to chat. You don't even have to ask them to be a mentor. Just be like, hey, can we just like grab a cup of coffee and talk about things? So to Paulette's point, super informal, but like it's not probably going to come to you. Like you need to go and seek it and just really capture those opportunities as they come.
Very good. Very good. And I was just running through the chat to see if we have any questions, but it looks like we have such expert mentors. There are no questions. Let's see. But there's great feedback that this is amazing and lots of tips and tricks that they have gained and using many of your words for what they are going to take back and just how amazing it and inspiring it is. And there are individuals in the chat that are looking for mentors. So I encourage you to go out in the chat. And if you think that you can reach out and be a mentor, let's reach out to individuals who are out there. I'm seeing from Town of Flower Mound, they've just launched a mentorship program. Thanks to Sarah Luxton. Applications just went live today. And so encourage you to take a look at that. That's very exciting. Let's see what, if anything else is coming in. They are saying in the application, we have asked mentee applicants what they are looking for in a, what we have asked mentee applicants what they're looking for in a mentor. They're looking for any other questions that can improve the best matching. So I'll throw that out to all of you. Feel free to jump in from any of you on the panel. Any other questions they should add to their application to ensure that you're getting the best mentor-mentee match?
I think we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. Tim and Jeanette really focused on it, but if it's an early professional, really trying to find somebody that holds a position similar to where they're trying to go, I think would be incredibly helpful. If it's an early professional that's really trying to get some advice of how do I just navigate what I'm doing today to make sure that I'm doing the things I need to do to get to where I want to go. So I think some type of question about career trajectory is probably going to be relevant to that conversation.
Is there anywhere that individuals can go? Like, let's just say their organization doesn't have a formal mentoring program and they're just not sure how to go about seeking out a mentor. Is there a place that an individual in government can go specifically to look for mentors? Can you think of anything?
In the North Texas region, we have a group called the Urban Management Assistance of North Texas that Paulette and I have both served as presidents for. And we have an event called Exec Connect, and it is held once or twice a year. 12 to 15 executives in the area sit at tables, and it's kind of like speed dating. So it creates smaller group environments where early professionals can come, ask any questions, and hopefully start to spark some of that organic mentorship relationship. So I'm sure there are assistance groups all over the country that are very similar to that. This is just a specific one that we work with, that we go to every year as executives. And so I think try to find early professional groups like that host events to bring executives and early professionals together.
Yeah, that's great. There was also a question about if you didn't have a formal kind of mentoring program, how can you easily start one that doesn't necessarily cost money or isn't formal or wouldn't drain resources? And I know we've broached the subject.
Yeah, so I kind of answered that in the
Yeah.
Q&A, but also I see she posted it in the chat
Mm-hmm.
as well. But I think it's just to start. So as a leader in your organization, take advantage of those mentoring moments that come up. Encourage the others in your organization to do the same. Kind of talk through the mentoring moment and how you took advantage of it. Encourage them to do that, and even encourage the younger up and comers in your organization to again ask questions. Don't be nervous to approach the manager or other leaders about questions that you have, and just start the conversation.
Absolutely. And with that, we are at time, unfortunately. But on behalf of Cigna Healthcare, thank you, Paulette. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Jeanette. And thank you, Tim, for sharing your experiences and wisdom. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. We certainly appreciate your audience and your engagement. We hope that you are leaving here inspired to strengthen the mentoring relationships within your own organization. To go out there and seek mentoring relationships as you need them, and definitely supporting emerging leaders and continuing to build the next generation of public servants. So with that, thank you so much and have a wonderful day.